Hello. I decided to make a tutorial on how to make your own Polyrhythm Mania levels. Because my bestie asked me about it, and I was like, alright, I'll do it. I've been recording for like 20 minutes and then realized I hadn't even hit the record button. I'm a little bit upset now because I did a pretty good job explaining it the first time, but this gives me a chance to redo it without mistakes. So, to begin, you're going to want to download the game, because the editor is in there. I'll link that down below. And then you want to go into the edit mode. And now, here's your workspace. It's a lot bigger usually, but I can't do this in full screen because OBS doesn't like recording in full screen. So, to begin, there's a lot on screen. I know it's a little bit daunting, but believe me, it's really easy once you get the hang of it. So, to begin, you can't really make a level if you don't have a song. So, go to the Adjust Music button and load a music file. The thing I used last time for this was Battle Against a Weak Opponent from Earthbound. But I kind of want to do something different. Let's do Save the Miners, because I'm kind of tired of listening to Weak Opponent now. So once you have this on screen, you're going to notice there's a lot going on here, but if you're just starting out, the main thing you want to worry about is this button right here. Click this button every single time. If you do not, then even if it's just by a little bit, your tempo will be off and like the whole song might get messed up, and you just want to make sure that you always have that. So that is what you want to start out with. And now turn on the metronome and play. It doesn't sound great. That's because you don't have your tempo set up. Now, if you're doing a song that is like popular enough to have like things documented about it, you're gonna want to look up its tempo. So let's see here. Earthbound, Save the Miners tempo. Okay, actually, usually using BPM. Like searching with BPM instead of typing in like this song's tempo. You want to put BPM and that'll help. Let's see here. I'm looking for it here. I'm not seeing it. Yeah. The thing about looking it up, though, is that it's a little bit on the fence whether or not it'll actually have whether or not you'll actually be able to find it, which stinks. So let's say you can't find the BPM online. Well, that's what this little thing here is for. It's a very it's a way to get the tempo, but it's not pretty. So what you're going to want to do is click on this and get your finger on the T key and then press play and start tapping along to the beat of the song. once you get like a stable tempo, usually after like 100 beats, you can kind of tell what the tempo is. So now, once you have your tempo, this looks to be about 107. Click on this tool right here, go over to here, and scroll with the mouse wheel until you find your tempo. So do that, scroll back to the beginning, turn on the metronome to check and see if you're right. Sounds about right to me. So now that we have the music set up, go back to your selection tool, and we can now go into right here. This place up here is where you will find like the meat of your song, of your level. These are the core blocks, or like the blocks, I guess. So the first category we're going to go into is the core blocks. This is what you're going to be using most often, specifically spawn pattern, deploy rod, and despawn pattern. You will only use end state and skill star once per level, and then retract pistons will be used. You'll see. So we're going to start out with a spawn pattern right here, and just see how that sounds. Sounds good to me. So now that we have the first pattern, we're going to put down a deploy rod right here. Now, you can right-click on things to change the pattern. You can right-click on things to change their settings. So like if you right-click on a spawn pattern, you can change like where things spawn in. I'm going to take off those two at the end, and then right-click on this and change it to A row only, since this only has things on the A row. And now, we have that. Now, you might have noticed that I put this at the end of the spawn row, and that's because like if you put it back here, it will look kind of weird. Like you don't want you want your player to have the full pattern known before you start throwing things at them to like interact with. Unless you're doing a more difficult and more tricky song, in which case, go ham. That's what I like to do. So for now, though, we're just going to have this at the end. And now, let's use the next thing in our arsenal, the despawn pattern block. So put that right there. And that despawns the pattern at the end of there. Important thing to note, do not put it here if you plan to put another spawn pattern right here. Because, as you will see, it will despawn like the first block of your next pattern. So instead, what I recommend doing is putting it 1/2 beat right, or like 1/4 beat before it. See? Perfect. If you want it to be more on rhythm, you can put it 2 out. So it goes in between the rod getting to the last one and this actually starting. So now that we have those basics out of the way, oh yeah, you can also right-click this to either like despawn the D-pad row or the A row. So let's say that we did something like this and this, and then we made it despawn the A row only. It'll only despawn that. So you might have noticed that these stay open even after this next pattern is started, and you're like, well, why is that? That's where this comes in, the retract pistons. So if you do this, and then make it that, it retracts it instead of fully despawning it. You can also do this for both rows, so let's say you take out that. That's how that works. All right, so now, let's say we want to have, like, we want to keep this pattern and have it do 2 rounds of these. So do that. Perfect. But let's say you want to vary it up a bit. Let's do despawn pattern. And then spawn pattern. And then deploy rod. Now we have a new pattern. Very cool. I think you understand how that works now. So let's move on to the skill star and end state. Skill stars are for specific parts of a song that are really tricky. And if you want to reward your player for getting a really tricky beat, you can put it right where they would press the button. Now, it's a little bit hard to tell where a skill star will be activated. So what I like to do, or, you know, I'll just show you this first. So let's say that we have this. It activates on that block. But it's a little bit hard to tell where because I wanted it to activate on this one. So if you take this, if you take another spawn pattern, this will like mirror the other one. And you can tell where on here it would activate. So this little segment right here, this half beat, would account for these two. This little section right here would account for these two. This one would account for these two, and so on and so forth. So you're not going to want to keep this in. This is just to use for reference. So let's delete that. And now it activates on this one instead. Very cool. You might have noticed that we have 3 input tracks. These do not have any difference between each other. They're just like if you want 2 things to happen at the same time, or like 2 things happen and like overlap. So that's why I have this underneath this, because you can't, like you couldn't take this and put it like right here. It wouldn't let you. So you're going to want to put it on a different track. Okay, I think that's enough explaining for the core blocks. Let's move on to the effect ones. This is my cup of tea. This is what I like. So the conditional applause is, as you can see over here, this block will applause if any rod on the selected row is valid at this block's beat. This does not mean that when you press the button on a certain beat, it will activate the conditional applause. It just means that if a rod passes by. So let's say that you put it right here. Wait, what? It's still activated. Oh, I know why. Okay, so let's say that you do this. And you mess it up. The applause will not go. But if you get it, it will activate. That's how that works. I was a little bit confused on that when I was recording this the first time, so I'm glad that I got that cleared up. Usually this little box right here has a good explanation, so if I don't explain something right, this box probably will. Let's move on to the next thing in our arsenal, the palette change. This is one of my favorite things to use. I think you can do some really funky stuff with it. So you might have noticed that it's a eye-bleeding color of green. We're going to want to change that from the start. So let's go to the Customize Tileset Palette button right here. And as you can see, we can customize every single thing here. I personally am just going to change this to be a dark shade of purple because that's my favorite color. And then you can change the piston to be a different color. You might notice that there's all of these over here, and this says Group Mapping Cube and Group Mapping Piston. That is because if you change these, it'll like, it's sort of like an autofill thing. Whereas if you do the individual ones, you can change like specific sides of it. So like this would change the border of those. This would change like a certain side of the cube, like the top side. This changes like the the outline on a certain side. You know, things like that. I'm just going to make it default purple. So let's say that we want it to change to a different color, like right on this beat. Well, as you can see, it changed perfectly. You can also customize these the same way you do the base colors. So let's say we want to make it like yellow. Do that. And now it changes to yellow instead of green. You might have also noticed that there's transition during beats, pulse mode, and reverse. This changes the color over the course of a certain amount of beats. So if you have it at 0, it will change instantly, like that. Or if you have it like as 4, it'll gradually change over the course of the next 4 beats. You can make this as long as you want. Like, I don't know why you would do 32 beats, but you can. Now there's also a pulse mode, which if you put in like 2, it will change like that. It'll like change to one color. It'll change to the color that you set in here for half the beat, and then change back to the original color for the second half of the beat. So if you do like 0.5, it'll just sort of do that. Be careful not to trigger epilepsy, by the way. Like, be careful about that. Try not to put in flashing colors like that into your things, because that's like, you don't want, or if you do, make sure you put a warning. Very important tip. So yeah. Let's just do that over the course of 1. I'm not entirely sure what, oh, I see. Okay. So what this does is it will, like, instead of going from purple to yellow, it'll go from yellow to purple. It'll go from like your set color to back to, so I guess it's more like an instantaneous pulse, more than anything, really, which I think is interesting. I never really used that though, so let's not have it be flashy. All right, next thing, the texture pack. You might have noticed that it is very pixelated and Game Boy Advance looking over here. So if we click on this button right here, we can change it to be HD, which I think looks a lot better. Very nice. But if you want to change it midway through your song, you can make it so that you put down this in the FX. Oh, I forgot to mention. The FX channels are different from the input channels. You cannot put FX in the input, and you cannot put input in the FX. Keep that in mind. Okay, I forgot to explain that. I'm sorry. So let's say we wanted to change back to GVA. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can. You might notice that there's also a custom texture pack. You can change things to be custom. I do not have a custom texture pack on hand, but I have made one before. Maybe I'll make a tutorial on how to do that later down the line, but for now I just want to cover the basics. So I'm going to delete that because that makes things look pretty gaudy. All right, next thing, text boxes. Let's say you want to have text appear midway through your song. Well, you can do that. Put in your text right here, so I'm just going to put in some Earthbound stuff. It only appears for 2 beats, as you can see right here. This has the same rules as this with transitions. It will only last for 2 beats. So it'd be 5 and 6. You can change this to be 4 if you want it to last for an entire measure. Require an input makes it so that it does that. It's kind of weird how it works. I don't really use that very often. So let's see here. You can also have it be like dialog box like that, or you can have it be a banner for more like general text. Usually I use dialog boxes for like talking or whatever. Sorry about that. I got interrupted and now I don't remember what I was talking about. I had to leave for like 30 minutes. Text boxes. Right. Yes. Shoot. You know, I'm just going to move on to the next thing and pretend that didn't happen. I've been gone for like 30 minutes. Next thing is the song info card. And to talk about this, we're going to need to talk about the level metadata. So, as you can see here, this is basically like what's going to tell your player what you've made and like who made it, like the level creator, the description, the song name, song artist, album name, and then genre, and then album year. So level creator is me. Description can be like usually what I like to do specifically is I like to make the description like link into what situation the song will be playing in, like in the factory. So like this is Save the Miners, right? Maybe like let's say one of the workers got kidnapped and it's like oh no. So like maybe you like need to make the widgets to create something to like help fight whatever has kidnapped one of the employees or something like that. That's just an idea that I had for like this specific song, but if you have like another song, like, I don't know. Well, the narrative for Your Best Nightmare that I put in was, oh no, Omega Flowey is in the factory and now you have to fight him off. And he's gonna like mess with your shift. That was the whole, this is just like a purely cosmetic thing. You don't need to do any of this. This is just like what I like to do. So now we put in the song name. This is required, just like level creator and song artist. So Save the Miners. Song artist is, oh, I literally just went to go check this. Like, okay, Keiichi Suzuki. And Hirokazu Tanaka. Or Hirokazu. Of course, you would put in like whatever, you would of course put in like the information for your specific song. Album name would be Earthbound 1994, because that's when the game was released. I'd say that this is like, I don't know, would you say techno? I'd say more electronic, really. Difficulty rating is like how hard your level would be. I'm just gonna put in like a 2. Of course, this doesn't matter since I'm not really gonna be putting too much effort into this. At least not yet. Maybe I'll make a map of this. That could be fun. But for now, this is just an example. So now we can talk about the song info. Which level metadata field? And of course, this takes you here. So let's say we have the song name. Now this appears at the beginning. Let's say we put in another one. That is song artist. Now both of them appear. You can also put in custom text. So like, see, now it's there. Now I believe if you delete this, yeah. If you set it to be the song artist, it'll appear on the bottom. If you set it to be the song name, it'll appear on the top. And custom text completely overwrites the metadata thing that you put in. So now that is all of the effect blocks, and now we can do advanced blocks. This is like where you can do some really funky stuff for some really hard levels. Let's say you want this pattern to spawn instantly without like waiting out the beats. And then delete that. It just goes. You could also do like, let's see. This is something I did in Your Best Nightmare. You could have like a rhythm sort of going in the background while you have another thing going on. And then at the end of this, maybe you want to like make the actual pattern appear. So then you would, actually, wait. Also, in selective spawn, you can make it so that you have a piston that's already extended appear instead. Usually what I use these for is to indicate like something that isn't going to be in the final pattern when the selective spawn is over. So like, I would have these. So like those aren't ones that you're gonna press. So you wanna indicate that to the player, and you would have it like be the extended one instead, because you can't activate those. That's just a personal thing that I do. Of course, you don't have to do that if it doesn't cater to you. Tail end platforms are the ones that appear over here. So let's say you have that. It'll only have that. These do not make beats at all. They just sort of sit there and they wait for the widgets to come to them. So besides that, there's nothing else to talk about with the selective spawn. I recommend using the spawn pattern block if you're just starting out, because those can get a little bit tricky and can break your song or break your entire level, like it says right here. So yeah, there's that. And now, I think we're almost done. There's the tempo change tool, which can be used to, get this, change the tempo. So let's say you wanted to go into double time suddenly right there. See? You put these, you can only put these down if you have the tempo change tool selected. You can only put them down in this row up here. I remember when I first like tried using it, I tried putting it down here and was like, why isn't it working? So keep that in mind and don't be stupid like me. Next is the music volume. This can change how loud the music is. So let's say you want it to be like louder over the course of like, okay, let's say you want it to be louder just suddenly. So now it's louder. Or you could have it get louder over the course of time. And now you have it louder over time. You do that by clicking down here, just like with the tempo, and then you can click and drag to pull it over there. Simple as that, really. You right-click on both of those to delete them, by the way. Time signature is a weird one. You click up here to place them down. I believe this is purely cosmetic. it just helps you to like keep track of what the time signature is. I don't think you can change the bottom one. On beat track, scroll to change beats per measure. Yeah, this is purely cosmetic, as far as I can tell. So, I believe that is everything except for the results text. This is usually the last thing you want to do, but this is basically like at the end of a level where like you're being rated, and it's like the text that tells you like how well you did. So the title is like what's up here. So let's say from the minors, negative. Really negative only appears if you do really bad. At a certain point, I believe it's like right here, only the negative will appear. Or like if you get a really low OK score, it'll give you just the negative or something like that. Then the OK is like, and then positive would be like, that. So then if you get like a low superb, it'll just have the positive, and then if you get a really high superb, it'll give you the positive and really positive. It's an interesting little thing. This isn't required, but take it from somebody who's been playing a lot of custom maps for this game recently. It really adds to it and makes it feel a lot more like quality and thought out when you add the results text and stuff. I just realized I put a semicolon there. Oops. This is just for like seeing how things will look in the preview. This doesn't affect anything by like checking it off or not. All right, I believe that is now everything. If you click on save, you can save a project file, and then export is what will actually like export the thing. Oh, I totally didn't even go over the end state. I guess that this is good to have at the very end, but when you want your song to end, you put this at the end of your, like, where the final thing will be. And it ends as soon as you reach that beat. Keyword being as soon as. There's no like automatic fade out. If you want an out, sorry, I choked on something. If you want to fade out, you'll have to put it into the MP3 yourself. It's a little bit annoying, but that's how things are. It will end as soon as it reaches this, as I said. So yeah, that's about it with that. All right, let's delete that. And then go back into level metadata for a second. The banner settings. This is where you can like import a banner to like put in, that will appear on the level select menu. The only one I have is this on this computer, because this is where I made Your Best Nightmare. But it should usually be 512 by 160, but you can also do it in the minimum, although it doesn't look as good, but yeah. You can also do transparent, as it says right here. Cool stuff. All right. So now I believe that is everything. There's also the editor settings. You can just look through here if there's anything you want to change, but nah. All right. So let's go to the title screen and see something I made myself. Shout out to the person who made the entire Deltarune Chapter 2 soundtrack in Polyrhythm Mania. Who was it? pretty much the entire tutorial is over now, so just know that. From here on out, this is mostly just like me showing off extra stuff. If you've learned here, if you've learned something from this, cool. I'm glad that you did. All right, L3 in chapter 2. Eno. It says it right there. I'm dumb. But yeah, it's right there. Shout out to them. They made some really good charts. Now let's take a look at Your Best Nightmare. So, level metadata was filled out. This is a song artist, album, genre. You can actually put in a custom genre, but there's also presets as well. I put in a custom one. Input count shows like how many inputs there are, difficulty rating, duration, the description. That's what I put in for mine. This is using the pulse on the palette change to do this. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do this in the editor, as a matter of fact. I feel like that would work better. I haven't really planned out what I was gonna do at the end of this video. Your Best Nightmare. Confirm load. Alright, so, as you can see, I have palette changes right here. For the flashing at the beginning, so changes there and then goes back. I did some funky stuff right here with the instant, as you can see. Let's see. Oh, wait. There's also a text box right here that does that. And then there's the end state block. All right. I believe that is about it. Oh yeah. That's one of the cool things. That's like one of my favorite things you can do with the selective spawn, is to like make rhythms in the background. I feel like that's a fun thing to do. Okay, that is about it for this tutorial. I hope it helped, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.